Welcome back. The details. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi participated in the 5th mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union and regional economic blocs in Nairobi, Kenya on Sunday. Delivering a speech at a closed-door session on continental integration plans, President al-Sisi said he was glad to participate at the 5th version of the mid-year EU coordination meeting, noting that its first version was held in 2019 in Niger under Egyptian presidency of the EU. The head of state stressed that Egypt, as the current chair of the steering committee of NEPAD, strongly backs pushing regional integration in order to accelerate development rates in African states and enhance their stability. The president stressed Egypt is ready to provide full support to African countries to boost their developmental path under the umbrella of 2063 Africa Agenda. President al-Sisi said Egypt's priorities during its presidency of NEPAD is to attract financial resources to develop infrastructure. As part of his participation at the EU coordination meeting in Nairobi, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi also delivered a speech at the Climate Change and Blue Economy, Opportunities and Challenges session in his capacity as the current president of the United Nations Climate Conference. The president appreciated African participation at the Climate Conference for Implementation held during COP27 meeting in the Ritz Resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, November 2022, saying such participation reflected African commitment to multilateral action for facing climate change. The president also hailed Kenyan president's chairmanship of the EU Heads of States and Governments Committee on Climate Change, wishing him success in hosting Climate Action Summit scheduled for next September. The president also thanked Comoros President Azali Assoumani, who is the current EU chief, for his initiative Great Blue Wall, which aims at tapping on blue economy resources and coping with climate change, enhancing development, notably at coastal areas. The president also tackled the Egyptian efforts in facing the negative repercussions of climate change on Africa. President al-Sisi stressed that global challenges stress the need to cooperate for the well-being of the African peoples. Presenting Egypt's vision for climate action in the upcoming period, he said that they include the provision of needed resources for the speedy implementation of programs to decrease gas emissions and to enhance access to renewable energy. Secondly, there is a need to draft conversion programs in different fields that take into consideration the socio-economic dimensions. The president pointed out to water, climate adaptation and hydrogen initiatives taken by Egypt in collaboration with international partners, including Decent Life for Africa and the Global Forum for Renewable Hydrogen Initiatives, calling for fellow African states to join these initiatives. Wrapping up the mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union and regional economic blocs in Nairobi, Kenyan President William Ruto said the EU is working on boosting integration among African states to achieve development. Details.
Wrapping up the mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union and regional economic blocs in Nairobi, Kenyan President William Ruto said the EU is working on boosting integration among African states to achieve development. Addressing a final press conference over the activities of the meeting, Ruto said it's time to free the EU from structural obstacles to render it more effective. The Kenyan president also expressed appreciation to President al-Sisi's efforts in supporting joint African action and for hosting the COP27 climate conference. Ruto also praised President al-Sisi's chairmanship of the Heads of States and Governments Committee of African Development Agency, NEPAD. The final communique also said that heads of states and governments of the African Union and the leading African economic blocs proved means of activating the African Continental Free Trade Area. Created in 2019, it's the world's largest free trade area, bringing together 55 African countries.
On the sidelines of his participation at the EU mid-year coordination meeting in Nairobi, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with his Kenyan counterpart William Ruto. Presidential spokesperson Councillor Ahmed Fahmy said the meeting tackled boosting bilateral cooperation and regional and African issues of mutual concern, notably the situation in the African Horn, the Nile Basin and the crisis in Sudan. President al-Sisi and Ruto discussed efforts and initiatives to settle the Sudanese crisis, including the Sudan Neighbors Conference held in Cairo last Thursday with the participation of a number of African leaders. The president also said he highly appreciates the coordination with the Kenyan counterpart over enhancing African joint action with the aim of pushing forward the development agenda of the continent. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shaya al-Sudani held talks